Okay, so we're going to do a few things today. This is going to be a typical, if you like, EDGE application workshop, where I'm going to talk you through the process of applying to EDGE and hopefully answer any questions that you have. And hopefully, you know, I'm really keen to communicate how much we want women entrepreneurs to come into our competition. But I also felt that as I was creating this opportunity for women to get together, that I would also bring some other amazing women into this space. So I've got Elizabeth Pirrie from AccelerateHER, who I know is on the call at the moment. I've got Carolyn Currie from Women's Enterprise Scotland, and then we've got Mandy Bailey from the Royal Bank of Scotland, who are all going to talk about what they particularly do in their organisations to support women in business. So this isn't just about EDGE and what we can do to support you, but the other organisations that exist in Scotland specifically to support women in business. And hopefully by the end of the workshop, you will feel that there is the support out there for you to either pursue an EDGE application or to tap into the other offerings that these organisations deliver. These great organisations that we get the opportunity to work with in Scotland. And then we're going to try and make sure that we keep to time so that there is an opportunity for you to ask questions at the end of the workshop. But as I say, I'm very happy to be interrupted rather than just listening to the sound of my own voice. So please stick your hands up, put something in the chat, or, you know, shout out if you've got a particular question as we go along. So everybody ready to go? Nodding heads, great. So this is what I'm going to cover today in the EDGE workshop, just a little bit about what EDGE is and why we exist, our competition categories, the key dates that you need to be made aware of, a little bit around the application process, a little bit around structuring your video pitch, because we ask you not just to fill out an application form, but to make a short video, a bit about the assessment process, and most importantly, the fact that as well as assessing your application, we're trying to capture feedback that will help you move forward in your business. Then we'll do a few quick top tips around submitting your application and delivering your video, and then we'll move on to, you know, hearing about the support available from WES, AccelerateHER and the Royal Bank, and then the opportunity for questions. So what is Scottish EDGE? Well, essentially we're an organisation that uses the competition format to try and identify and support Scotland's up-and-coming, innovative, high-growth potential entrepreneurial talent. And I'll break those words down in a bit more detail as we go along. I mean, first of all, sometimes people will be put off by the word innovative and think that they have to be coming up with a cutting edge life science business, or, you know, something that is going to change the world in the fields of AI and engineering. And don't get me wrong, we do have those types of businesses come into EDGE, but we also support businesses making scented candles, making bean to bar chocolate, making, you know, computer games that help empower women. So there's lots of different types of businesses that come through EDGE, as long as they've got something, they've got a USP that will enable them to sell their product and service out with their local area, then we consider that to be innovative. The key thing that we're looking for, though, is we are looking for businesses that are going to grow and to create jobs. Ultimately, we are really interested in our businesses creating jobs in Scotland, even if that's only one other job within your business or two other jobs within your business. And in doing so, making an impact on the Scottish economy. And that's reflected by the organisations that support us. As you see, we get support from the Scottish Government, who provide the grants that we give out to our winners. We get support from Scottish Enterprise, who also give us some funding support and also a secondee. The Hunter Foundation, which is run by, which is Sir Tom Hunter's philanthropic foundation, supports us with our overhead, with some of our overhead costs. And then the Royal Bank of Scotland have been very good in the past at, and continue to be, in giving us funding that we can use to deliver as loans. So they donate that funding to us and we use it to support our revolving loan fund. So Scottish Edge is open to all sectors, and we cover the whole of Scotland, and I'm pleased to say that we've got businesses as far away as Orkney, right the way down to the borders. And, as well as the funding, we give a lot of feedback to the businesses that come into the organisation. We give a lot of support to our winners, and we have created a network of the businesses that we have supported in the past. We also give a mix of grant and loans, but we are extremely flexible funders. We pride ourselves in being as unbank-like as we possibly can be. So a little bit about our story so far. We've assessed over 5,000 applications. We've helped 569 businesses, and around 440 of those are still trading. And, we first supported businesses back in 2013. We've awarded over 23 million in total. But what I'm showing you here is that the big but. Women-led businesses only made up 14.5% of our applications in round 20, and only 21% of our applicants in round 21. And try as we might, those figures haven't really moved very much over the few years since we started working at Edge. One thing we have seen is there's been a significant change in the number of male-female partnership businesses. So what we've seen is the number of male-led businesses has gone down over the years to be replaced by the number of male-female-led partnership businesses. But what we've found is that the number of women-led businesses has remained fairly static. And I would love to encourage more women-led businesses into Scottish Edge. So just a little bit about who can apply to make sure that when you're on the call if you're actually able to apply. So with Scottish Edge, you must be a registered business entity, and with Social Enterprise Edge, you must be an asset locked social enterprise. And the reason we've fixed on that is that's because the funding that we receive for Social Enterprise Edge, that's one of the criteria. With Young Edge and Wildcard Edge, you can either be, a limited company, a social enterprise, a charity, or a sole trader or partnership. So the grant-only parts of the competition, you can be a sole trader or partnership. The reason you have to be a limited company for Scottish Edge is because if we're lending you money, then you have to be a limited company. So we're looking at businesses that are pre-trading or have been trading for less than 5 years. You've got to be headquartered in Scotland and resident in Scotland, although you can have your company can be registered elsewhere, provided the headquarters is in Scotland. We're looking for businesses that are currently, have turnover of less than 1 million and have raised less than 500,000. So we are looking at more earlier stage businesses. And if you're coming into the competition, then 50% of the business ownership needs to sit with the directors who are working in the business day to day. So we wouldn't want to see something that's owned 80, 90% by an equity, by an equity investor, and the management team has only got a tiny percentage of that. We're really looking for people that are, running a business that they have the biggest ownership of. And we're looking for businesses that have the ambition to generate turnover of 200,000 over 3 years, and that can be cumulative. So that can be, 0 in year 1, 50,000 in year 2, and 150,000 in year 3, for example. And don't get me wrong, not all of our businesses reach that, but I guess what we're looking for is we're looking for businesses that have got the ambition to reach that. So it's a wee bit of a complicated slide, but it's just to kind of show you the way that we handle each application coming into the process. So everybody fills out the same application form, regardless of what category you're in. You can tick the boxes to say what category you want to be considered for, but everybody is filling out the same form. So you then go in and fill out your application form, and I'll explain a bit more about that and how you do that. And you then upload your 3-minute video. And again, I'll explain a little bit more about that. These are videos that are made on your phone. So that's the most important point to make. This is not something where you're having to commission a television company to actually produce something for you. This is just a video that you make on your phone that goes alongside your application. And then every single application is assessed by an independent panel at our first stage. Those panels tend to be made up of 4 judges plus 2 members of the EDGE team. And as well as assessing each application against our 6 assessment criteria, they also capture feedback and pieces of advice. So, for example, if in looking at the application, they feel that you could benefit from talking to the National Manufacturing Institute, then we would offer, as part of our feedback, to give you an introduction there. If we feel that you might benefit from going on the Royal Bank Accelerator, for example, or perhaps the accelerator that is run as part of the Michelin Enterprise Park, again, we would say, we feel this is something you could benefit from, and would you like an introduction? So we try to make our feedback relevant to each of the businesses. So we're trying to comment on the application, but also signpost to other organisations that might be able to support. And that is for everyone, whether you proceed to the next stage or not, everyone gets that level of feedback. So if you're being considered for Scottish Edge, the next stage is a semi-final, where we would ask for a little bit of extra. We would ask you to update your application form, and at that stage we would ask you to submit a cash flow, and you would then do a 3-minute pitch to another panel of 4 people, and you would get 8 to 10 minutes of Q&A, and that's in a closed environment. So again, there would be probably 6 people on the call, 4 judges and 2 members of the EDGE team. And then if you get through that stage, you get to a live final, which is in a public environment. And we usually hold the finals at the Royal Bank Conference Centre in Gogarburn, although this occasion I think we're going to be moving the final to Glasgow. And you would pitch in front of an audience for 3 minutes and get 10 minutes of Q&A, and then you find out if you've won, and you can win up to £100,000. With the subcategories with Social Enterprise Edge, Young Edge and Wildcard Edge, there is no semi-final stage. So you go straight from the first stage assessment to the final, and then you win, and you would then attend the award ceremony and have your trophy and get a photograph taken at the award ceremony, which will be held after the final for Scottish Edge. Does anyone get any questions about that as we go along? And Jack, if there's anything coming in the chat, you can let me know.
I did have a quick question, if you don't mind. As Fernanda Mastery, I work at the Cell and Gene Therapy Catapult. So it looks like if it's just a clarification, really. Social Enterprise, Young and Wildcard, they go straight through sort of the subcategory, but all of the others would go through the top layer. Is that right? Or
yeah, that's right. For Scottish Edge, because I think it's because it's £100,000, and also because, to be honest, the bulk of our applications come in for Scottish Edge, there is that extra layer. Okay. Because usually what we find is from the first stage, our judges will maybe identify around 60, 70 potential candidates for Scottish Edge, and then we whittle that down and typically take around 24 to 26 to a final.
Okay. And the other question I had was around that comment for the cash flow. The company that we're looking at doesn't necessarily have those kind of details yet. They have predictions based on very early on assumptions. How much scrutiny is there around the revenue predictions and things like that? Do they have to be quite advanced in terms of what their market research shows in terms of their cash flow and their numbers?
So in the first stage, what we're looking for is for people to put down some indicative numbers for the first 3 years, but not backed up with any cash flows. So basically what we ask is, what do you estimate your turnover and net profit and jobs would be in the first 3 years? Okay. If they get this, so that's quite straightforward, and I think most people tend to take a guess at that and then try and back that up with the narrative around the assumptions. when they get to the semi-final, we do ask people to do a cash flow. But what we do is we've got a template that we send out, and we've also got how-to videos. So we're currently working on those just now, because we want to make it as straightforward for people as possible and to offer them as much support with that as we can. So in the past, we would just send the template out, but what we've heard from people is they need more support than that. So we're working on that just now, and we will be offering those videos. But also, if people need extra support with the cash flow, then we can do that. From the team can support them with that.
Okay, thank you.
But in the early stage, it's much more, it's more of a guess at that stage, and it gets a little more detailed as they progress. And one of the reasons we do that is because obviously if you are successful at EDGE, you're taking on both a grant and a loan. So you need to be considering that as you go through the process.
Yeah.
Hi, Evelyn. Sorry.
Evelyn.
Oh, right. Hi, Fiona.
Hi there. Just a quick question. Just the previous comment you were making about the sort of legal status of the company. So for those of us that are keen to apply for Wild Edge, for example, who might not be at that finite stage yet, and thinking, do I apply now on the basis of a sole trader until, I get, things in place and further research done. Would you recommend that businesses applying or potential businesses applying for Wildcard should be registered as a legal company, or do they register simply with Inland Revenue that they're now going to be a sole trader? What's your advice on that?
I think it's what you're comfortable with. So we've made it that we're quite happy for you to come in to Wildcard Edge as a sole trader.
All right.
So we've got no issues with that at all. And the only reason we sort of say that people have to be, I think I was trying to explain, the only reason we say people have to be a limited company for Scottish Edge is really just around regulations around lending. We can only lend to a limited company. If we were lending to a person, we would have to be regulated by the Consumer Credit Act.
Okay.
And as a small social enterprise, that's a huge expense for us. So that's one of the reasons. So, yeah. But with Wildcard Edge, I would actually suggest at this stage it probably makes sense to be exploring that as a sole trader until you've made the decision whether you're definitely going to pursue that long term.
Yes, yeah.
Wildcard is specifically for early stage pre-trading. It is, if you like, us taking a chance on something we think is interesting. But of all of our winners, what we find is probably, only a percentage of our wildcards do actually, having carried out that research with that funding, go forward, whereas a high number of the Scottish Edge and the young edges continue to trade.
Okay, thanks, Evelyn. Thank you.
Okay, I think there was one other question. I think I heard another voice.
Hi, Evelyn. I'm not sure if my speaker is working, so I do.
No, I can hear you, Rosie.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
It was just to ask, do you ever get applicants for Wildcard and Young and then get back to them and say you should be applying for the Scottish Edge? Do you ever get, obviously there's quite a clear difference, but do you ever look at companies who've applied for the Wildcard and say to them in their feedback that they should be applying for the bigger one instead?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we do that.
Okay.
And in the past, we have had people that have applied for Wild or Young, and we've actually suggested that they progress in the Scottish Edge category. So we have done that in the past. So we've actually, if you like, progressed them because we feel that it's a missed opportunity. I mean, another thing we've done a few times is if people have applied for a certain amount of money, we've actually suggested that we give them more. Okay. If we feel that they've got the number wrong. Obviously a lot of people come into the competition and almost everybody applies for 100,000. We can't give everyone 100,000, but sometimes we've seen it where someone's only asked for 50 and we've ended up giving them 100 because we're so keen to support them. So we try and be as flexible as possible. So yes, if we saw something really amazing in Wildcard and thought they've missed a trick, we could get in touch with them and say, look, we'd like you to progress in a different category if you're happy with that.
Okay, that's fine. Great, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so sorry, Lydia.
Yeah. Could I just ask as well, when you do the live pitch? Is that just yourself, or could you have a small team that does it together, or how? And / also maybe support for people, like I'm dyslexic, so just is there support for that around those sort of situations as well?
Yes, absolutely. So first of all, what we'd say is if you do get to the stage of doing a live pitch, we organise in advance for you to go along to the venue and practice on the stage and walk around and try and get comfortable. Also, if you need extra support, as you'd mentioned, we would organise for you to perhaps have some extra sessions with the team where you could practice your pitch and you could get feedback. In terms of how many people pitch, what we recommend is that it's quite difficult to manage a pitch, a 3-minute pitch with a lot of people. So we probably recommend that you restrict it to 2 of you actually pitching. But if you've got a team, you bring the rest of the team on the stage, and before you pitch, you introduce the team to the judges and explain that the rest of the team will participate in the Q&A. But these are little sort of like extra things that we cover off when you get to that stage. So it's always good. People always sort of ask, well, what's my chances of winning Edge? Because obviously we do, appreciate this isn't just a piece of funding that you apply for. And, if you tick all the boxes, you receive. Unfortunately, it is a competition. But what we've tried to do is work out what the success rate are. So overall, there is a 20% success rate, but it does depend on which category you're coming into. So, for example, it's quite high with Young Age, and with Social Enterprise Age, because we've only got one winner, it's a bit lower. But across the whole competition, there's usually about a 20% success rate. So 1 in 5 coming into the competition will receive funding. So just a little bit about some of the businesses that we've supported in the past, just to give you an idea of the types of businesses that win Edge. So this one, Potter, who won Scottish Edge, actually that's interesting because I mentioned a business that had received more. They originally came in looking for £50,000 and the judges ended up giving them £100,000. And the main reason for that, so this was a business who've designed origami flat pack plant pots, but they had, we were told in confidence at the time that they'd landed a huge order with Bloom & Wild to design and deliver a flat pack vase, which they now do. So if you now buy Bloom & Wild letterbox flowers, you can add a Potter Pots flat pack vase to your pack. And it means when you get your flat flowers, you can pull out the vase as it's an origami shape and put your flowers in that vase. So that was a massive order for them that they needed funding to complete the product development for. So as well as obviously delivering on that order, they are selling their origami plant pots all over the world now, with quite a lot of them now being exported to the US. With our Social Enterprise Edge category, Social Stories Club curate gift packages which are filled with products which are sourced from social enterprises, and then they come with a brochure that explains the story behind the social enterprise. So if it's tea that is sourced from a particular plantation, but that plantation also works in educating local girls, for example, then you'll be able to read about that story while you're sampling the products within the box. So they do a huge amount with large corporate customers like PwC and recently with Brewdog. We also, I have to say, buy their gift packs whenever we have to give gifts to our judges and others. With Wildcard, this is an example of a business who initially won Wildcard, so for a flat pack solar collector, and then went on to win £100,000 from our Scottish Edge category in the sort of net zero category, and is now exporting that product primarily to the US, but also to the global south. And then lastly, Conglomerate Games was one of our Young Edge winners, and they actually develop games that also have a purpose associated with them. So they're quite an unusual little game studio. So the games have an enjoyment aspect, but also have an educational aspect, which really appeal to us. So it's just an example of the types of businesses that have come through Scottish Edge in the past. So here are the kind of key dates. So as you'll know, having come on the call, our application window closes at 2 p.m. next Wednesday. And what we find, I have to say, at Scottish Edge is that it doesn't matter how long our application window is open for. So at the moment, it's only 3 weeks. And people will say, well, why is it only 3 weeks? You used to do 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. But what we find is all the applications come in the last 24 hours anyway, no matter what we do. So we'll find that it's fairly steady with a small amount coming in each day. And then in the last 24 hours, most of them come in at that stage. We will then, as soon as the applications come in, we will start assigning them to the panels of judges, and then we will carry out our assessment days, and the results will be sent out on the 13th of September. So you've got just over a month to wait before you get the assessment results, and then we start the finals. So we've got wildcard first, then Young Edge, then the semi-finals for Scottish Edge, followed by the social enterprise final, or actually that should be the other way around, I think. And then we have the Scottish Edge final on the 22nd and 23rd of November. So if you are coming in for wildcard, so I can hear that a number of people on the call are particularly interested in wildcard, you would find out the day after the final whether you've been successful. So you don't have to wait all the way to the end of November when we get to the Scottish Edge stage to find out if you've been successful. After you pitch the wildcard Edge final, we will get in touch with you the next day to let you know if you've been successful, and then we will start the process of getting your contract out to you and your funding out to you. You won't actually receive your trophy and get your photograph taken until our Scottish Edge final, which is, I've not got the date up here, but that is the 29th of November in Glasgow. But you would, by that time, have been able to draw down the funding that you need. So if you're coming in for wildcard, in theory, you could have your money in early October to start working on your business.
Evelyn, can I ask a question there, please?
Yep.
On your slide, you've got 13th of September, the assessment results sent out. Is that for the main Edge competition, or would that include wildcard as well?
No, that's everything, Fiona. So basically what happens is that I will get to this shortly, but you will do an online application, and we do an online assessment as well. And within your application, we then collect your scores and your feedback. And on the day that the assessment results are sent out, if we've got 200 applications, basically we click a button in our CRM and all 200 results are emailed out,
right,
with your feedback.
Okay,
so everybody gets that the same day.
Super. And just on a question of if people are successful in the wildcard competition, as an example, so with Business Gateway, any grant funding you get from them, you have to pay for any sort of workshops and courses or research yourself, then claim the money back from them. Does it work in the same way with Scottish Edge, or do you work with the winner to help them draw down the funding as they need it, and then sort of copies of invoices are shared with you and the team at Scottish Edge?
That's an excellent question, Fiona. What we do is we think that's a bit daft. I hope there's nobody from Business Gateway on the call, because obviously you need to have the money to spend in the first place, and if people are grants, it's because they need the money. So what we do is we give you the money up front.
Right.
You then spend, so we give you 75, in the case of Wildcard Edge and Young Edge, we give you 75% up front. And then once you've spent that, you get in touch with us and you demonstrate to us that you've spent that correctly by sending in invoices at that stage. Brilliant. So that then creates a level of trust from us. We then give you the other 25%. We don't come back 6 months later and ask you to evidence the 25%, because we trust that if you've done that for the first 75%, that you will do that for the rest. So that's kind of the way that we work. And it's the same with Scottish Edge, except it's 50% up front, because it's big sums of money. So if you win 100, you get 50k right away. And then you come back to get the other 50k once you've spent that first 50k and can evidence that you've spent it correctly. And then we put the next chunk out.
That's great. Thanks for clarifying that, Evelyn.
Sorry, Katerina, you've got a question.
Yeah, hi, Evelyn. Yeah, hi. Katerina Hayes, founder of Naked Kimchi. We have we decided to go for Scottish Age for the general, for the food and drink. And we have like challenges because like we have to expand our production because we have customers who are asking to produce more. So we need to improve more Ukrainian refugees, and we need to expand our production site. What evidence do you require for like a kind of memorandum of understanding or the clientele list of the clients who are interested in our product and would like to buy like in higher volumes from us? But also like what evidence do you require to show, because we're also expanding our product line as well.
We don't particularly look for evidence. We try to take things on trust. So we assume that if you're telling us that this is who you're speaking to, then we tend to trust that's the case. We don't go and ask you to get letters of intent or emails or anything. We will obviously, once you've won, we will be working with you a bit more closely. But during the application stage, there's a lot of trust on our part. We are, we're believing that you're telling us the situation you're in and why you need the funding and why you need the support from us. So you don't have to go and collect a lot of evidence to present that to us.
But I would like to find out how I can actually put that in the milestones, because there is the growth we can actually show, and what other information is required. Basically, this is the milestone, and how many milestones is required, or is it like basically we say that we probably wouldn't be able to scale up straight away to like a high-end production unit, but we can have these intermediate steps to achieve
well, all of that is worked out with our relationship management team when you win. So what happens is after someone wins, we have an onboarding meeting, which is usually an hour to 2 hours, where we agree the milestones, and those milestones can change as you go through the process. So that happens after you've won. We then discuss the milestones, and that's how the business is assessed in terms of the funding. So conscious of lots of other questions, Katerina, but yes, we do deal with that. So Holly, I think you had your hand up first.
Yes, thank you. I have two questions. One, I'm interested in the social enterprise and the wildcard. Are you allowed to apply for those two at the same time, or is it one per cycle?
We usually say one per cycle, actually. Yeah.
Okay. And then the second question is, in terms of funding, let's say you requested, I don't know, like 60,000. Is it like an all or nothing thing? Or if Scottish Ed says, we really like the idea, but we can only give you 40, is that like, are there barriers based on how much you ask for, essentially?
Yeah, so basically what I say is, my advice is always ask for what you need, but also be careful you're not being a bit too modest, because one of the things that we see is an absolute trend in Scottish Edge is that women ask for less than men. So make sure you're asking for what you need, and also don't think that if I ask for less, I'm more likely to win. That doesn't work either. So just,
no, I was thinking more from the opposite side of, if I ask for because I would benefit from a full, the full funding available in the social enterprise prize. But then if does that just limit my scope? Is it seen as an all or nothing of, okay, well, they're asking for X amount and we can't give that, so we're going to eliminate them from the award pile, or you just award a lesser amount?
No, it doesn't work like that. So just ask for what you need. And if it turns out we can't give you absolutely everything that you need, so say, for example, you do ask for the full 75, but we decide we can only give you 60, we would then chat to you about where you would get the other 15 from. So just ask for what you need. Okay, Claudia?
Yes, hi, thank you, Evelyn. Very, very insightful dialogue so far. I just wanted to ask about the interplay between the grant and the loan funding and the percentage that the loan will take and repayments. We looked at potentially submitting an application to Scottish Edge over a year or so ago when we founded Alta IP, but it was the loan part which we're unprepared to commit to, because as co-founders, we are prepared to bootstrap the business, but not prepared to take on any debt.
Yeah. Okay. So the loan. So when Scottish Edge started, the first 4 rounds, it was a grant-only competition, but that was not sustainable in the long term. And in fact, there would be no Scottish Edge now if we hadn't taken the decision to give loans, because basically the government would have got fed up putting out that amount of money each year and probably would have cut it down to nothing. So the loans have enabled us to create almost like a perpetual competition, because we've created a revolving loan fund. So what we do is we do a mix of grant and loan. So if you were concerned about the loan, then what you would do is look at the ratios, and it's back to the question I answered, I think, around asking for what you need. So you would then think, if I only want a loan of that amount, then what would I apply for? The loans come out because we give 2 tranches. So you would get, the first loan would be for the first tranche. So say, for example, you applied for 50,000, then you would get a tranche of 25 to start off with, and that would be a mix of grant and loan. And then, you know, maybe 6 months to a year later, you would draw down the other tranche. So I would suggest looking at what you can sustain in terms of the loans. The loans are soft in the sense that they are, we don't take any personal guarantees. So there's nothing guaranteeing the loans. We simply ask that you try and get the money back to us, because that then enables us to help the next person in line. We structure the repayments over a 5-year period, but we can do less over the first 2 years. So for example, if you were developing your business and struggling a little in the first 2 years, we can take less funding, with the bulk of the payments kicking in years 3 to 5. But that tends to be for businesses that are in the very early stages of trading or are pre-trading. If you're actually trading, then we recommend you just split the loan equally over the 5 years.
And the percentage of grant to loan for
so
100K?
It's 30% grant and 70% loan.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Samantha?
Yes, so this wouldn't impact me unless I failed to get through this year and wanted to look at it next year. I've just got a question. I set up as a sole trader using the same trading name for a couple of years before I actually set up a limited company. Do those first 2 years as a sole trader count in the, because you said the business had to be under 5 years old, I think?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
No, so you would be fine if your business, if we'll just look at your limited company and how long that's been trading. So that's fine. So I think last question from Eleanor, and then I'll move on to the next part. Oh, no, got one from Olga as well. So Eleanor, are you there? Oh, no, I think you're on mute, Eleanor. No, thanks. We're going to wait. So Olga, we'll take a question from you.
I think Eleanor went off mute.
All right.
Well, I'll ask a quick question.
Okay, if you go first.
Thank you very much for running the workshop. It's amazing. So the quick question about the applying for what you need. Say we could apply, you know, because we expand in production, like I'm Katerina's business partner, Naked Kimchi. So we expand in production, so we could ask for more, but obviously, you know, financial model can be done for any terms of funding. So do we ask for, say we're applying for the Scottish Edge 100,000, do we structure our financial model and ask just for that? Or could we ask for more and then you'll say, actually, you know, we're only awarding up to this amount? I'm not wording my question well. So what I'm trying...
I think I know what you mean. I mean, the thing is, as the team, we can't guarantee what you'll get. What we say is ask for as much as you need. So if you need the full 100,000, ask for that. But the judges at the end of the day will decide, because our budget, unfortunately, doesn't stretch to give everyone 100,000. So what they would usually do is give if you like, the businesses that are scored the highest on the day would get the most amount of money, and then they would try and spread the rest between the businesses. And perhaps they might say, okay, you know, the kimchi business business needs 100,000, but actually some of that is for equipment that they might be able to lease. So we'll maybe give them 75 and then that 25k towards equipment. You could explore whether they can lease the equipment rather than buy it, and that's a way around it. So anyway, I'm conscious of time. I'll move on to Eleanor, if that's okay.
Hi there, sorry for a little bit of tech trouble. I couldn't find the unmute button. I think it was very interesting when you said that on average women ask for less money than men. That's really interesting. And I guess it's also made me realise I was thinking about asking for less, and part of that was maybe looking at previous winners and what they were awarded and assuming that they were given what they were awarded. So I think, I guess what I was saying is, if you were applying for the 100,000, then I imagine at some point you'd have like a negotiation where you would chat through what if Scottish Ed wasn't willing to or wasn't able to award the full amount, that you would then have a conversation about what they thought would be most valuable to fund.
Yes, absolutely. You know, so we have a relationship management team. So we have 3 relationship managers who work with the winners. And then they sit down with the winners and work out what's the best use of the money, what the milestones are, you know, when the money will be drawn down, all these kinds of things, and then work closely with the winners over the next year as they draw down the funding to make sure that they can use it in the best possible way to drive the business forward.
Okay, that's good. I guess it's quite encouraging to know that people on average apply for the full amount. Is that what you were saying?
Yes, well, certainly all the men do. So, and what I would say is that we've been trying to drive up the average. So at the moment we're kind of, so whilst a lot of people do apply for 100,000, the average that people win is around 70, but hopefully that will be even higher this time. So we're trying to make sure that most people walk away with at least 70,000 in the Scottish Edge category.
Okay, thanks very much.
Okay, so conscious of time, so I might skip through some of these quite quickly because we can deal with questions at the end, because I know some of our guests are now on the call. So how do you apply for Edge? So you go on the website and there's a button there and you just click apply here. And there's also on the website lots of resources. So there's videos you can watch. There's a competition brochure you can download. And what I would say to everybody on the call is download the competition brochure. Almost every question you've asked me today is covered off in that. It's become a bit of a war and peace for us because we keep asking, you know, answering different questions in it, but most of the information you need around the competition is in that. So, but you click the apply button and then that takes you to our Scottish Edge portal. So we try and do everything online. And we try and make it as simple as possible for you. So for example, the first screen you'll get to is if you're a new applicant or if you've already registered. So what we find is about 1/3 of our applications in every round are people that come back. So what we try and do is if you've already put information on our website, then if you've already entered Edge, a lot of your information is there. So you can come in and use the same email and password to get in, and then a lot of your information is already there. You don't need to enter it again. You just need to go through and check that it's still up to date. But if you're a new applicant, you go through the process of registering with an email address and a password. Now, just a word for I know already that there are a couple of people on the call who are from one business. So make sure you both don't. The one thing that you can break the system with is if 2 of you register with 2 separate addresses and 2 separate passwords. So make sure you agree. If you know 2 or 3 of you in one company, you have one address that you use and one password that you use. And then once you go into the site, so this looks quite busy, but you will get to your sort of review application page and you will see application questions under 8 particular boxes. And as you fill out those questions, the boxes fill up. So what we say to you is you can go in and out of the portal as many times as you like. Once you've created your sign-in and your password, you can go in and out and in and out and in and out until you've completed your application. And then once you've do that, you then hit the submit application button, and then you can download a Word copy of your application, and then you get that into us. So what we recommend is that you go on to the, if you are coming into Scottish Edge, I would recommend that you go on to the portal as soon as possible, start the registration process and start building your application up online. And also, if you go onto the website, you can download a paper version of the application and you can put all your answers in there and then cut and paste them into the portal. So we try and make it as simple as possible. Okay, so application questions. Again, if you download the paper application on the website, that will give you a breakdown of the application questions. But essentially what we do is we've designed the application to ask questions around our 6 assessment criteria. But we've also designed the application so that answering those questions is also useful for you if you're applying for other sources of funding. So the types of things that we're asking at Edge are general business questions. So if you do fill in some information on your team and we've got questions around your team, you should be able to cut and paste that into other applications. If we're talking about your business growth potential, again, the answers that you give us there, you should be able to use in other scenarios. So we try and make sure that the things that we're asking you are things that will be useful if you're applying for accelerators, if you're applying for Innovate UK, if you're applying for Business Gateway funding. So hopefully when you have completed your Edge application, you've also summarised some key aspects of your business that you can utilise in other areas. So I'm just going to go very quickly through the video. As I've mentioned before, the most important thing that I say about this is it's something you make on your iPhone, and it's really about showing yourself and showing or describing your product or service so that, if you like, you can paint a picture for the judges. So it's really your opportunity on the video is to paint a picture. And the video will be assessed along with the application. They're never assessed just as individual entities. So whilst we have some information, and this is covered off in our competition brochure about the different ways you can structure your pitch, clearly if you don't cover all of these, provided they're covered within your application, you're still making sure that the judges have the full story of what's going on in your business. But the key thing for me in the video is, get over who you are and what your passion is for your business. And if you've got your product, think, Olga, if you've got your kimchi, you show your kimchi. What does it look like? Can you see somebody tasting it and going, yummy? Can you have a customer testimonial? This is the best kimchi I've ever tasted in my life. Those are the kinds of things that then get the judges excited about, and the rest of the things, what you're looking for. You can cover these off very quickly in the video because the detail is in the application form, and the judges will then get the detail of, I want to increase the production. We're going to be working with these, distributors. We're going to be doing more online sales, etc., etc. You can say all of that very quickly in your video and then cover the detail in your application form. So just a little bit about our first stage assessors. I've mentioned it's 4 assessors. The other thing is, back to the women aspect of this workshop as well. We make sure that our judges are 50% male and 50% female throughout the competition. So we have 50-50 at our first stage, our live pitching and our final. To make sure that you're not in the situation which so many women are, for example, when they're pitching for funding from VCs or equity funds, is often they can be faced with all males. So we make sure it's 50-50. Assessors are given your form and video at least 2 weeks in advance. We also recruit sector-specific judges. So if you're food and drink, they are food and drink sector-specific judges. If you're life sciences, they're specific to life sciences. If you're net zero, they're specific to that sector. So we recruit assessors who know what they're talking about. Each of the assessors signs confidentiality agreements, so they're not allowed to discuss anything that is submitted to us or anything that is discussed in the judges' room. And they score out of 5 on each of the 6 assessment criteria that I show on the screen. Each of those is weighted equally. So for example, impact, some people will think, oh, you know, we ask a few questions on impact. So we'll ask, what's the social impact of your business? What's the environmental impact of your business? Some people just skate over the top of that. They think, oh, well, I'm not really thinking about that just now. And they don't answer those questions very well. If that's the case, you could lose a lot of points. You need to be, each of those 6 assessment criteria is weighted equally, and you need to give, you know, equal amounts of, you need to put equal amounts of work into your answers against those. So this is just a little bit more detail on those, but as I say, conscious of time, so all of this is covered off in the competition brochure, including, if you like, a breakdown of how you answer each of the questions so that we can make it as simple as possible for you. So in terms of the tips around submitting a great application, you know, one of the things is to make it easy for assessors to understand your business. And I know that that sounds like a really obvious point, but even if your product is relatively simple, you want people to understand what is unique about your product. So again, back to the kimchi, what is it that makes your kimchi stand out above other kimchis? And I know we've got Fiona on the call, who's going to be doing some unique clothing. What is it that makes that unique? What is it that, you know, who is currently serving that market, and how are you going to stand out amongst those that are serving that market, that is going to ensure that customers are interested in buying the product or service that you have? But make it straightforward. So it should be that the judges understand quite quickly what it is you're trying to do and the niche, you know, the customers that you're trying to sell to, because you don't want them to spend lots of time debating that and not getting down to why they should be supporting you. As I've mentioned, know the assessment criteria, because then that way you know, a tip I always say to people is read the application form and imagine you're a judge and you were assessing your application against the 6 assessment criteria. What would you give yourself out of 5? I mentioned the point of difference. Financial forecasting, we are just asking, you know, in that early stage for you to estimate some figures, but try to be realistic. I mean, we have seen people put in application forms saying they're going to turn over £100 million in 3 years. I mean, I love the ambition, but yeah, try and be realistic. And also, if you think that at most you will only turn over the 200,000 in 3 years, that's fine. Don't say you're going to turn over 500,000 if you don't think you will. If you're setting up a business that's going to turn over 200,000 in 3 years and create some jobs, we're excited about that. Yeah, and tell us about real customer engagement. Don't just tell us about the size of the market. You know, it's like there's a, you know, people will say, well, there's a 6 billion market worldwide for my service. That doesn't tell us anything. Who's going to buy it locally? Who's going to be your first customer, and how will you grow from there? Then we ask you to, you know, simplify your spend breakdown. Again, don't just say, I want to win Scottish Edge, I'm going to spend £80,000 on marketing, and then don't explain what you mean by that 80,000, or I'm going to spend 80,000 on a production facility. How does that break down? I've mentioned impact. Consider your impact intentions. You may be at the very beginning of your journey, but you need to think now about what impact are you hoping to make with your business. We can all focus on our intentions at this stage. And then, as I say, try and read through your form and think, is there anything that I haven't told the assessors which is key for them to know to make the decision to put me forward? And also just make sure you double check your form before you submit. Unfortunately, within the portal, it doesn't spell check. So a good idea is, to, as I say, to have your answers in a Word document where you can run a spell check before you cut and paste it into the portal. That's still something I think that is going to, it's still a development within the portal that we're waiting to happen. And then just a little bit, I'm not going to run through each of these in terms of the video pitch, because I think I've covered most of these things. I think if you can involve your team, have customer testimonial, and remember that your application form and your video is a combined submission. And also make sure you watch your video back before you submit it. We got an absolutely outstanding video last time where we could only see the person speaking from the neck down. So it was a good pitch, but you couldn't see their face. And the problem with that is you put that on, the judges fall about laughing for the 3 minutes and then you have to play it again. So make sure you watch it back before you submit it. Easy mistake to make, but easy to correct as well. Okay, then very quickly, we try to give extra support. You know, we've got, everybody gets feedback. We have a support package if you win. You join our Edge group of alumni. We offer workshops. We give as much support as we can. So it's not just about winning the cash, although I know that most people come into Edge, when we've done surveys, that's what they're interested in. They understand and accept that there and enjoy the benefits if they are successful as they go through. So before I go on to any further questions, I'm going to stop my share. We'll come back to the questions, but thank you for all of those that have come along. And I'm now going to introduce you to the first of our speakers today. So I'm going to introduce you to Carolyn Currie, I think, who's on the call. Yeah. There you are. Hi, Carolyn. Lovely to see you. So I'm just going to pass over to you. I kind of ran through the end of that because I know we're running a wee bit late, but I'll hand over to you.
Okay, well, thanks very much. And firstly, you know, thanks also for running the workshop, Evelyn, because I think this will make a massive difference to everybody and your application chances with Scottish Edge. So, you know, I hope you've all been taking really good notes. I've been listening to some of it. I'm the Chief Exec of Women's Enterprise Scotland, but I'm also a former banker. And I used to head the lending book in a large bank. So I have literally seen and read more lending applications than most of you have had hot dinners. And while we would all love to think it is an equal playing field out there in this day and age, it absolutely is not. We are not there yet. So the more insight you can get from workshops like this, the better your chances. You know, the old saying still holds good, forewarned is forearmed. So make the most of it. And for those of you that are perhaps thinking, oh, surely in this day and age, it's equal and men and women get equal and fair treatment, I would just say, suspend that belief for the moment, take on all the learnings and insights you can get from here, because it may make a difference to you getting a yes over the line. And that really is what this is all about today. So, okay, very, very quickly, Women's Enterprise Scotland, the organisation I represent, we are a not-for-profit community interest company, and we were set up to make sure that women in Scotland can access the support that they need to achieve their business aspirations. So we do that in 3 different ways. We regularly undertake research to find out about women's business experiences. We work with the Scottish and the UK governments to discuss our research findings and make sure that their policies and approaches really do create the environment where women-owned businesses can thrive. We also provide business support ourselves, all sorts of support from starting and growing a business, you know, for example, shaping an idea, setting out a strategy, growing your sales, applying data and artificial intelligence, and of course, leading your business successfully. Now, much of our support is delivered through the Women's Business Centre platform. If you've not heard about it, I've chucked a link in the chat, and literally you will find it at womensbusinesscentre.com. So hopefully it's quite easy to remember. You have to register to access the support. It is all still free. So while it is all still free, make the most of it and go and have a look. We are actually working on a 3rd phase upgrade to the platform. It was launched originally during the pandemic to help women, because back to the fact that we perceive things to be equal, and there has been plenty of research and data, including our own analysis of the grant disbursement during the pandemic, which evidences women did not receive their fair share of support. So, yeah, if you register, you can register for free. That means you will get the communications and the updates. And actually, in a couple of months, we are going to be coming out with some quite exciting news related to access to finance. So I would say go and register, and then you'll make sure you find out about all of that. in terms of the difference, you know, what is the impact and the difference that our work makes? Well, you know, internationally, our research has informed the policies of the G20 group of governments in terms of formally committing to the importance of women's entrepreneurship. At a UK level, it made a difference to the type of support that was put out during the pandemic, making sure that women in all the different sectors where they run and own businesses were able to access a greater proportion of that grant support than otherwise would have been the case. I mean, I'm happy to speak to anybody or take questions about that. I'm just flying through this because I'm conscious of time. And I think, you know, I really do want to say, just in closing, in terms of insights for funding applications, there are many structural inequalities which are embedded in the funding system, even in this day and age. So workshops like this can make a huge difference to women's chances of success. You know, Evelyn has already mentioned women ask for less. That's fact. Women do ask for less. Check over your sums, boost up your numbers if you think they're just slightly. Do not just project on what you think is your best case scenario. Add in contingency. If you're not sure, nobody's got a crystal ball, boost it up by 10 or 15%. That is reasonable business planning. Make sure you ask for enough, because if you're in a negotiation, people are only ever going to negotiate you downwards. It's very rare. There are some examples in Edge, but it is quite rare to be boosted up. And also, while I agree with Evelyn, you do need to be realistic about your ask, because you have to evidence what your ask is, and you also have to evidence what your projected sales and revenue are too. Women do tend to be a little bit less ambitious when they project their numbers in their markets. So that's the other area I would encourage you to look at. Don't be ridiculous and just pick a multi-million figure out of the air because you think it'll help. That doesn't help anybody. You need to be able to rationalize it, but do ask yourselves if somebody else presenting this might actually push the boundaries a bit more than perhaps you have, and what is realistic and achievable for you. And we don't have much time, so I'm just going to stop there and say, I wish you all the very best of success. I think it is brilliant that this workshop is happening, and I'm really delighted that all the work that Edge put in specifically to support women and to really make a difference in the funding landscape.
That's great, Carolyn, thanks. And actually, I think you made some points around the projections for women. And just to say, we did work with Women's Enterprise Scotland a few years ago to identify areas of, if you like, unconscious bias that sometimes judges have towards women-led businesses. And we share that with the panels and also call that out where we can see that. So if, for example, a judge said, you know, about a female business, oh, well, you know, I don't think they're being ambitious enough. You know, we would then sort of call that out. So that was a really useful exercise for us to identify that. And that's something that we watch out for in our judging. So we make sure that our judges aren't, and it's obviously called unconscious bias for a reason, but that they aren't unconsciously biased. We call it out, and then when they reconsider it, it can often change those decisions. So I'm now going to hand you over to Elizabeth Pirrie from AccelerateHER. Hi, Elizabeth, lovely to see you.
I nearly made the rookie mistake of not unmuting myself there. Hi, Evelyn. Thanks very much for having me here and for a very insightful workshop there. I learned lots that I'll be able to pass on to other female founders who are asking me about it as well. I am Elizabeth Pirrie. I am CEO of AccelerateHER, and I have the best job in the world because I get to meet amazing women founders like yourselves every day. And although a lot of information, a lot of the statistics are negative, women get less funding, there's unconscious bias against them, all that sort of stuff. Some of it's positive as well, because actually we women, we do more with less. So we might ask for less, but we tend to produce a better return on investment and are less likely to default on loans. So don't forget that when you're putting in your application. Who are AccelerateHER? Well, we're a vibrant network of female founders, non-binary founders and partners who share the passion to accelerate the growth, visibility and backing of talented female founders. We know that by providing the right connections to door openers, expertise and business angels who share our beliefs that women founders will be empowered to accelerate their business. We are supporting the next generation of successful women-led businesses by delivering activities focused on unlocking women's economic and societal impact, maximising female potential through the power of networks, community, knowledge and education, and widening access to investment through knowledge networks and creating high visibility for growth-focused women and non-binary founders. Ultimately, we believe in support the growth of women leaders like yourselves. That's the standard spiel that I give. Where do we fit in round Scottish Edge, I think is probably what you're wondering. Many of our founders have won Scottish Edge before they come to enter the AccelerateHER Awards, or they go on from the AccelerateHER Awards and enter Scottish Edge. We deliver workshops and boot camps that will help you prepare that information that you require for your Scottish Edge application. We also deliver pitching workshops, which will help you build your confidence for standing in front of that phone in the first place to put that application in, right through to standing up on the stage and taking the judges' questions. And we have a community of many like-minded founders that you can interact with and learn from and support. In fact, since we started in 2016, we've had over 6,000 women through the doors, literally and virtually, of AccelerateHER events. We also have our sister organisation, Investing Women Angels, and we pull the angels in to deliver mentoring to women founders to help them, not just with being investor ready or seeking finance ready, but with other business issues as well. So our doors are always open, and we're always hugely supportive of founders who are going for the Scottish Edge funding, because we think it's a fantastic opportunity. Ladies, if you're thinking, will I or won't I? The answer is you will. Please get your application in. Let's get those numbers up and show what we can do. And good luck to you all.
That's great. Thank you, Elizabeth. And you're right, we do share so many winners in the programme, same in Women's Enterprise Scotland as well. It's great to see the community of, successful edge-winning women that work with all of us. So next up, I'm delighted to introduce you to Mandy Bailey of the Royal Bank of Scotland, who are, as I mentioned earlier, are huge supporters of Edge and actually helped us to create our initial revolving loan fund, and then have supported us with Net Zero Edge, and specifically have provided us with funding for our next round to have a focus on women. So we are going to be using some of that funding, for example, to do a women-only podcast series. And we're also looking at some other events and some sort of PR and publicity around the women that I work with, that Elizabeth works with, that Carrie works with, and try to shine a light on successful female entrepreneurs in Scotland. So over to you, Mandy, and thanks as always for your support.
No, thank you for having me. I'm absolutely delighted to be here, and I hope everybody has had a great morning. So Scottish Edge Evelyn thankfully has done a bit of the groundwork, so I don't have to go into details of our relationship with Scottish Edge, but it's one of the biggest relationships and partnerships we have, not just in Scotland, but actually across the UK, and touches many parts of our organisation, not just us in the enterprise team. So a bit about myself, I'm Mandy Bailey. I'm the Regional Ecosystem Manager for Scotland, who sits in our enterprise team. I have been with the bank now for 3 years. Prior to that, I had my own business for about 12 years, and then I was in a family business before that. So, and I have been through the Edge process myself. So I know exactly some of the thoughts that may be going through your head at the moment. So yeah, please do take advantage of all the support and expertise that is available. I know I did, as I was going through the process, and found it enormously beneficial. So on to talking about kind of what we can do to kind of help and support if in fact you need any additional help and support. Our Royal Bank of Scotland Women in Business programme primarily offers 3 areas of support. So we offer access to business support, access to expertise, and then finally on the business side, access to finance. So our Women in Business programme has been running now for something like 18 years across the UK. And we have independently accredited women in business specialists who are specifically trained to provide mentoring, particularly around kind of financial need, but also in supporting pre-startup, startup or scaling businesses to launch, grow and scale their businesses. In particular, we have 6 or 7 in Scotland, 1 in each region. They are our local enterprise managers, and they are there to help with a whole variety of support or needs that you have. Some of the kind of areas of support that we provide in particular in Scotland are delivered through our enterprise programmes. So that could be our Business Builder digital support, which is, if you like, an on-demand, very flexible kind of support bite-sized programme. So it's a whole kind of variety of online modules, giving you access to events and an online community to help you kind of build your business and bring your ideas to life. Suitable for all businesses at any stage of the businesses. And crucially, all of the support that I'm about to talk about very briefly is all free. You do not have to be a bank customer to be able to access that, aligned with our purpose of, in particular, helping underrepresented females as a result of our kind of Rose Review, which was launched 4 years ago. It is one of the key primary purpose pillars on which our whole organisation and all of our plans are delivered. The second area of support is our accelerator hubs, and we know kind of many of Scottish Edge participants do actually come on to participate in our accelerator hub programmes. So we have 3 in Scotland. We have a digital one, which again is very on demand and flexible, particularly for those in rural communities, but we also have in-person hubs in both central Edinburgh and central Glasgow. And what essentially that does is that focuses on the entrepreneurial leader of every organisation and helps them build their leadership skills, develop a scalable infrastructure, access to growth funding, and then attracting talent, building teams, etc., and accessing new markets. And that could be for 6 months, that could be for 6 months support, but it could be also for up to 18 months support. And crucially, it might be interesting for you to know that actually 60% of all of the businesses on our accelerator programmes in Scotland are all female-led businesses. So that's something we've worked really, really hard to ensure that we get a kind of a really good balance within our kind of enterprise programs, but we are absolutely delighted that I think it's possibly because we're almost an all-female team that could be the case, almost an all-female team apart from our new enterprise leads. But yeah, so it's 60% female-founded businesses on our enterprise programs over the last couple of years. I spoke about earlier about our local enterprise managers. They're essentially our experts and residents out in the regional communities. So again, we have those in Highlands and Islands, Grampian, so Dundee and Aberdeen, and Edinburgh and Glasgow. And after today, I'm more than happy to share just a short presentation which gives you details of all of our women's business support that is available and you can access at any time, either by contacting myself directly. I'll send you links to the website, but also direct details of all of our local enterprise managers. So, and then kind of finally, I suppose the key thing I wanted to talk about, there's lots about kind of access to funding and funding landscape on the little presentation, including our Swoop app, where you can find access to grants across the UK and government initiatives that you may be able to avail of. Our UK Enterprise Fund, I'll provide a bit more detail about that. But one of the things that I think I really wanted to touch on today was our Mentor Match programme. So new to our Women in Business support, I am absolutely delighted to say that in Scotland only, we have launched a dedicated mentoring programme that supports women in business by professional women in business. So essentially, we are trying to kind of redefine the world of mentoring. It is a transactional kind of mentoring platform. It's a digital platform where you can, I suppose it's almost like a kind of matchmaking service, where you can access and connect to a mentor for a special kind of specialist one and done subject, or for just maybe some of the challenges that you're trying to overcome in your business. So that's anything from kind of socials right through to business strategy, and it's all entirely free, and you do not have to be a customer to access it. Claudia, I'll provide the details to the link. So the first thing is to say that is now launched. It launched at the beginning of last week. So I will send a link to that if anybody needs to access any time of mentor. Again, please do so. But also I would love you to consider, not just as you're going through this process, but in the future, you may wish to become a mentor. So, and we're trying to redefine what a mentor is as well. We're just trying to encourage as many women in business, whether they've been in a business, whether in a corporate organisation, that actually if you've got a skill, you could share that skill to help lift another woman up, either in her growth journey or in her business. And so it's trying to also encourage as many mentors in as possible. It's really flexible. Essentially, you set the parameters. It could be an hour a month, an hour every 2 months, and only in one particular subject. So I feel that's a kind of a really, really good, compelling part of our kind of business support. And what I will do is I don't want to kind of hog up much more of the time because I'm conscious of the time, and I know we want to do some question and answers. So yeah, just please do reach out either through Evelyn or Jack or anybody at the Scottish Edge team or directly with myself. Please do reach out if there's anything there that you'd be interested in discussing a bit further. But absolutely, crucially, good luck with your application process. Yeah, I wish you all the best of luck.
That's great, Mandy. Thank you so much. And yes, we will share those resources after the call. Now, I'm conscious we're kind of on time because we started 5 minutes late. So we've now got to the end of the webinar. So what we'd say is if any of you need to rush away, then obviously please do. But if not, if you want to stay just for another few minutes, if we've got the opportunity to answer some questions. So obviously happy to take any questions. I know Carolyn, Elizabeth and Mandy are as well. So please let us know if you've got anything else you'd like us to answer.
I had a quick question.
Fernanda's got her hand up. Hi.
Hi. Really, for any of the speakers from today, it was all great. Thank you so much. It's more of I suppose advice that I'm seeking for. I'm the co-founder of a tech bio company, and I am the subject matter expert, and my co-founder is, let's say, the business side of things, expert, MBA type of guy. Where we find ourselves in a bit of a catch-22. I have a young family, 2 kids, and the advice we get is that we won't get investment until we're fully dedicated to this company. But obviously, with a young family, I can't necessarily quit my job. So is that really true? We won't really get investment, or we won't really hit the right milestones. We obviously, I want to dedicate myself to it, but I need to make sure that there's some sort of income. And I'm sort of wondering if there's any advice as to when to do the switch, or are there any funding mechanisms that are more friendly to understanding that, you know, there's nurseries and things to pay, but there's also a big potential with this company brewing.
Okay, so I think from the Edge point of view, we would be very sympathetic to the situation you're in at the moment. And I mean, we do co-fund, we do put funding into businesses run by people that are still in full-time jobs. We do put funding into businesses that are run by people that are still in full-time education. It does change a little bit with investors, and I don't know if Elizabeth or Carrie would like to contribute to that. So I would say we're empathetic to that, but I think it does change a little bit when you're taking on investment.
Yeah, I'm afraid it does, Fernanda, simply because the investors are risking their money into the business by backing you, and they expect you to be taking some of the risk as well. And they would be concerned that if if you were working on another job, you wouldn't be able to focus on the growth plans for the business that you're asking us to invest into. Now, if you tell us that as part of your plans, you know, the reason for the raise is so that you can then come and work in the business full time, then we would be more relaxed about that, provided that you weren't only seeking funding to cover your wages.
Yeah, I think that would be that's kind of what we were thinking, that we would seek to employ me so that I could dedicate the time to really propel it forward. We find that doing kind of work on the side, there's only so much we can do in terms of fully investing into the right programs to accelerate the business, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And to me, that makes perfect sense. You're the subject matter expert, so, you know, presumably would take on a title like CTO or something like that. And, you know, we support companies all the time that are looking to bring a CTO on board or bring the expertise, the technical expertise they need in-house. So it shouldn't make a difference whether that's the founder or an external person. Carrie, you're looking like you're desperate to add something to that there.
Yeah, I would just say, don't lose sight of the fact that investors are looking to invest in a really capable team. So it's not just about your projections, it's about the capability of the team to achieve those projections, and you're a key part of that. It's not an unusual scenario at all for a startup looking for equity investment. So investors will understand that. But, you know, as Elizabeth said, you have to be clear that, you know, you want to make that commitment, and it's a bit of a no-brainer. You're starting up a business, you know, you would expect that to be the case, but you do need to state that, you do need to say that that's what the investment would be used for. And exactly the point that you've made, you can then grow your own skills into the areas where perhaps you don't have them. Again, that is very typical of a startup. You know, you don't expect people to have every source of expertise, whether it's that expert area that you're growing the business in or whether it's business skills. So that is quite standard. And just don't forget that, you know, investors want to support you, want to work with you, and want to make sure this powerful team, you know, are well supported to unlock the potential revenue generation, because that is what it's all about for investors to bring back.
Okay, thank you.
Questions? Any other questions? No? Well, just like to say a huge thank you for joining us on the call today. As mentioned, there are some resources we'll be sharing, and I think I know that there's some people who couldn't make it along this morning, but we have made a recording of the webinar, so we will be able to share that with people that couldn't make it along today. So just to say, lovely to see you all. Thank you to our guest speakers, Elizabeth, Mandy and Carolyn, and I do hope that you will engage with them now that you've heard the wonderful things that they have to offer. And also good luck with your EDGE application. I hope that you are all going to put in an application, and I'll get the chance to read about your exciting businesses in the next few weeks. So take care and thanks again. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Evelyn.